Did you know President Bio addressed the nation as he would normally do on Independence Day yesterday, April 27th? I'm sure not many of you watched that on TV or listened to his address on radio. Obviously, the euphoria or the excitement building around independence celebration wasn't there. Therefore, a lot of you did not pay attention to what the president said to the nation on Independence Day. That is why today on AYV on Sunday, we'll be delving into Sierra's 63rd Independence Anniversary. The address made to the nation by President Julius Maada Bio. He touched on a few things. Most significantly, he accepted the fact that there are challenges, but what are the plans that his government is putting together to ensure that these challenges are addressed, particularly that of the erratic energy supply, call it power supply, that we've had in most recent times. This is AYV on Sunday, and I'm John Conte. Welcome back to AYV on Sunday. Today we shall be delving into President Bio's address to the nation, successes, challenges, and the way forward. You can follow us on DSTV channel 399, Radio 101.7 FM, and on our AYV News Facebook page. Send us your thoughts and comments. We'll find time to go through them later on in the program. Here with me, I have a panel to help unpack these 2 hours discussion. I have Reverend Jibrila Kagbo, who is the Director of Communications of the National Commission for Democracy. Good evening, welcome again. It's a pleasure to have you once more on AYV on Sunday.
Good evening, and thanks for hosting me.
Abdul Fatoma, the Chief Executive Director for Shadi. And welcome, Abdul. Again, a pleasure to have you on AYV on Sunday.
Thank you so much. And good evening, viewers and listeners.
Thank you. And Imran Sila, member of the Strategic Communications Unit from the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. Welcome, Imran.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's always a pleasure to have you here on AYV on Sunday, knowing how you would be able to meander through issues, especially when it gets fiery and fierce. Thank you for coming again. Now, to give a baseline for the discussion, let's take some extracts from President Bio's independence speech, followed by a package and story put together by Salifu Cherno Kamara on the 63rd Independence commemoration by the government of Sierra Leone. That includes the Interfaith prayer that was held at State House.
On the 27th of April 1961, Sierra Leone gained independence from British colonial rule. Amidst a spirit of unity and reflection, Sierra Leoneans converged at State House for the 63rd Independence Day National Interfaith Service. Earlier in the day, President Bio delivered a heartfelt address acknowledging the patience and resilience of all citizens during these challenging economic times. He emphasized that this day presents an opportunity to shape the country's future and destiny, while reaffirming the government's commitment to improving the lives of every Sierra Leonean.
Your cooperation and steadfast dedication to peace and harmony are the pillars that make my role as your president possible. As we mark another Independence Day, we are confronted with significant economic challenges, including high food prices, elevated fuel costs, and persistent energy shortages that impact the daily lives of every Sierra Leonean. To tackle the high cost of living, we have recalibrated our fiscal and monetary policies to stabilize the exchange rate and reduce inflationary pressures. From a peak of 55% in October 2023, inflation has declined to 42% as of February 2024. We anticipate that this downward trend will continue, enhancing the purchasing power of our people and effectively lowering the overall cost of living.
The Interfaith service commenced with President Bio himself delivering a scripture reading from St. John chapter 9, verse 1 to 12, emphasizing the importance of faith and unity in overcoming adversity.
Jesus answered, "He was born blind, so the power of God could be seen in him. All of us must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent me, because there is little time left before night falls, and all work comes to an end. But while I'm here in the world, I am the light of the world."
Executive members of the Interreligious Council, Reverend Henry Abiose Samuels, delivered the Christian sermon, while Alhaji Mamadou Kurma offered the Muslim prayers for peace and prosperity, symbolizing the nation's religious diversity and unity.
He said in verse 4, "I must do the work of him that sent me while it is day, because the night will come when no man, no woman will be able to work." So Jesus was focused on the work that God gave him, the work that he came on earth to perform. And he said that he must do the work and not be distracted. So, Mr. President and team, there are so many things that we want to distract you from doing the work that God has placed you there to do. But take the example of Jesus and boldly state that you will do the work of him that sent you, especially while it is day, because the night will come when no man, when no woman will be able to work.
You see that today there is a problem of political divide, but we also thank the government for putting in place a peaceful and negotiating modality to bring peace between our politicians. May we witness and celebrate a politically tolerant atmosphere in Sierra Leone. You have given us everything in this world and this country in terms of resources. You gave us land, you gave us the land. And today we see our government put in place a Feed Sierra Leone project. We ask you, Allah to bless these initiatives so that we will gain success at the end, and this is what it will mean to develop highly and to be independent in our country.
In his address, President Bio spoke directly to people, recognizing their perseverance and highlighting the government's ongoing efforts to address the current electricity problem and uplift the nation.
In our determination to resolve the ongoing energy crisis affecting every aspect of our lives, from our homes to our businesses, we are proactively engaging with partners and stakeholders, including the private sector, to ensure the provision of stable and reliable electricity to sustain our nation's growth. On this Independence Day, I assure every Sierra Leonean that your patience and tenacity are recognized and deeply appreciated. Your acknowledgement of our noble development efforts and constructive critique are invaluable, and our commitment to nation building and preserving the freedom of speech, especially at a time like this, remains unwavering. Let us remain united and firmly dedicated to our collective aspirations for our economic freedom, political liberty, and social freedom.
The service was attended by members of the diplomatic corps, ministries, departments and agencies, community leaders, and representatives from various sectors of society. Notably, some members of the main opposition APC were also present, demonstrating a collective commitment to national unity and cohesion. As the service concluded, President Bio personally greeted and shook hands with many attendees, fostering a sense of fellowship and unity among all present. As Sierra Leone celebrates its 63rd Independence Day, Today's National Interfaith Service at State House serves as a powerful reminder of the nation's resilience, diversity, and shared aspirations for a brighter future. Salifu Charana Kamar, AYV News.
Now, that was a report put together by Salifu Charana Kamara there on, of course, President Bio's address to the nation, but also the interfaith service that was held yesterday at State House. That's on Independence Day. Now, so today we are going to delve into President's address. I mentioned not many of you watched it, not many of you paid attention to it. In fact, on the platform that it was shared on social media, there are only 220, a little over that, likes and 66 comments. I think that's the lowest traction he's had from a state address made at any point, whether it was earlier this year or last year or during his first tenure as the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone. But let's get straight to the address. Like we do, gentlemen, on AYV on Sunday. The first thing we do is, we're going to make this quick so that we have enough time to talk about what President said, is to look at what our major highlights were, or highlight was for the week ending, leading on to independence, and then we get to delving into the statement that was made by President Julius Maada Bio. I'll start off with you, Reverend from NCD. What was your major highlight for the week ending and leading on to the independence weekend?
Too many things to consider, but probably we focus on the things that happened in our parliament. That will be my focus, that eventually Parliament adopted the toll gate increases with, of course, some adjustment. And that has a telling effect on the things that we do around the country, because whatever it is that we have to purchase from up country, it has to be transported through, say, commercial vehicles. And now we are talking about price differential on the higher side. And that, of course, is something that is of serious concern to every Sierra Leonean. Now, people are saying, one of the comments that came out of that is that government is asking us to pray during this independence celebration. But whilst government, the executive was asking us to pray, Parliament was doing something else, not considering the concerns of the people. And so I took notice of that, because that was just the very eve of the Independence Day commemoration, or if you might want to call it celebration. So it's a serious cause for concern. And the emergency regulations were also discussed. But definitely the focus for me was the toll gate increase. And it's a point of discussion all over the place. People are very concerned. And of course, we like the President mentioned in his address to the nation, he is also concerned about the various challenges that we are faced with. We too are concerned, and we continue to appeal to ensure that whatever it is that the people of this country are going through, let's make some efforts to ameliorate those concerns and take the people to the kind of life that we envisage, something better after 63 years of independence.
All right. Thank you, Reverend. I'll come back to you later on. I mean, like I said, those are highlights of what your week was and how it ended. I'll go over to you, Abdul Fatoma from Chadi. What was the highlight for you, or what were the highlights for you from the week ending, leading on to the 27th of April?
Three things. One is I join with Reverend with the toll gate issue, and it has a far-reach implication on the government's earlier position in their second term in ensuring that citizens don't struggle to have access to a better living condition via the economy. But increasing on the tariff on the toll gate for motorists, it will bring, untold suffering on traders and citizens who work or live behind the toll gate area, like those who are Yams Farm or even Waterloo, coming to Freetown, working every day. It is such a crisis for them continuously. We are having a discussion about that as a country. How can the Chinese delay to provide statistics about how many vehicles actually apply that route when they have a CCTV camera and they document it? And that shows they're not the good business people because they don't want to come clean. So basically, that's pushed them away. And now,
I mean, those were the pending concerns.
Yeah, and they never cleared those
raised.
concerns. I mean, those concerns have not been cleared. I went through the report. And the second issue is the energy crisis, and then we get a resignation of the energy minister, and then the president appointed additional deputy minister, and he is now supervising that very ministry, meaning the deputy ministers are working directly under his supervision than that of the interministerial committee, which chairs by the vice president or the supervisory monitoring over by the chief minister. So these are very key, issue thing. And then the statement for the prayer, it was a quite, huge discussion among citizens, government calling for prayers, and then the speech, the president's speech, even though we'll be delving into that. But
Abdul, do you also know that after the notice issued by State House to say that the nation is encouraged to go to God in prayers from Friday, Saturday, and on Sunday as well. Did you see the release from the Sierra Leone police to say that the other small orderlies are now allowed to hold their gatherings after?
Yeah. I was coming to that because that's our area. I mean, it affects, the civic and cultural right of citizens. That's a whole human right. And we want the security sector to actually plan their security activities within the human rights principles. When once they go out of the human rights framework, then it's become more chilly. And when the president or vice president or senior government functionaries or officials go to the provinces, they have other traditional, masquerade that either welcome them or will participate in whatever, celebration they are in. But it seems as if that the security sector have deliberately, targeted the lantern parade, and other thing for the Western area, which is quite a bad thing. I think we should open up, the right of citizens to enjoy their culture. I mean, it's enshrined in the Constitution and also other international documents that we are signatory to, and some of them we are even ratified them as a country. So human right is not a barometer. You cannot measure it. You can't pick and choose what this class of people can enjoy, what the others cannot enjoy. All
right. Okay, Abdul, I'll come back to you. Let me take Imran quickly before we get into President's address. Imran, what were your highlights or your highlight for the week ending 27th of April?
Thank you very much again. I mean, in moments like these, I tend to look for those indications that gives that little glimmer of hope, if you like, and which sort of anchors my belief in the approach, right, in governance and many things. And I'm going to attempt to compress the two, right, in terms of Parliament passing the toll gate and...
So if you want to respond to them...
No, I'm not responding. I'm not responding.
So,
I mean,
what I'm basically taking is your highlight.
It fits into my highlight. That's the point I'm making.
All right,
right?
okay.
So,
we'll see.
And therefore, the toll gate obviously has its own implications, right? Naturally, like like they have stated. But then, if you look at, and this is something His Excellency the President talked about, inflation from 55-57% dropping down to 42% as of February 2024. A few things. It shows that there has in the past been a certain amount of stubbornness on the inflation levels, about 50%, and that quite clearly it has dropped, not only by 10 percentage points, because that will be 45, we're talking about 13 percentage points to 42. Now, what that means is, there's a clear sense as we move forward. Despite the stubbornness we seem to be seeing on the prices of essential commodities and all the rest, there is a sense that as we continue to move forward, as inflation continues to drop, we would begin to realize what you would call the good effects of it, right? Naturally, we'll begin to realize that. And I think for me, that's my highlight. That is what gives me that hope and confidence. And we continue to acknowledge the challenges that we face as a nation. That is something we have not shied away from. His Excellency the President has been bold and courageous to allude to that and continue to reassure that we're doing the utmost in making sure that we turn things around. And lo and behold, inflation has dropped by 13 percentage points. That shows when you dig in deep and focus on what the big plan and big objectives are, you'll get to that point, I mean, eventually, despite the surrounding circumstances, we will get there eventually. I mean, that is my own highlight, and that is what, that's the point I'd like to make.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll not delve into your highlights, but we'll get straight to President's statement. And I mean, it was a 19-minute long address. I think I was driving home the other day, yesterday, when I asked a friend that did you have, or did President speak to the nation? I think that was how quiet it was yesterday, that not many people, get to hear that President made a statement. A friend even posted, a meme on social media to say that it looked as if the President didn't speak, but he did address the nation. Now, let's start off with the point where, Abdullah, I'm starting off with you. One thing you cannot take away from President Bio is the fact that he has continually acknowledged and reverenced God. In his opening lines, he said he wants to thank God for the fact that we are celebrating another independence. I mean, you could tell that is one of the reasons, or perhaps what informs the call for the weekend of prayers, with those going to mosque on Friday, on Saturday the joint prayers, Interfaith, and then on Sunday, those who were able to attend church services today. Abdullah, I'll start off with you.
There are certain things you can take away from certain people. And when it comes to a religious issue, President Bio, you cannot take that away from him. He's a man who goes to church every Sunday, and he believes, in his religious practice. He's a Catholic. And coming back to the reality, like you said, he's a man who have been bold and courageous enough to share with us, citizens of this country, that we are facing enormous economic challenges. I mean, he did not only said that yesterday, he said that also on the 30th of January, when he launched the second midterm development plan, you know, at the Freetown Conference Center in Bintumani. And he said that, I mean, the country is going through a lot of economic challenges. We have listened to his boldness, I mean, highlighting this issue. But what we have problem with as a country, how do we address this issue? They intend to have the solution in their midterm development plan. But what he also said, you know, on the 30th of January this year, is this lack of synergy between his ministries, you know, actually how things could work, and then citizens start getting things better. We talked about the toll gate, the economic effect that it will be having on citizens, and the legislative that have his own members, you know, from his political party are in the majority in parliament. They turning blind eyes to the effort that their president, he's saying he wants to see that Sierra Leone have access to good economy and good, you know, living conditions. You also look at the activities of ETSA or the energy ministry. You know, taking light persistently or consistently for 5 good days, putting businesses, you know, out of business. Those who are self-employed, making them unemployed, you know, hitting hard on the same economy. When you look at President Bio's statement on yesterday, the point 5 and point 4 of the speech, you know, it clearly talks about the economic challenges we are through. Yeah. And this is a government where I mean, implied themselves as a government with data. Yeah. And he said in his second entrance of his speech, when he said, fellow citizens, he talked about the government investment in electricity since 2018. But what World Bank told us, 2016, the entire population of this country were having access to, you know, 15% of energy supply and a wastage of 34%. And the rural area, they were enjoying 2.5%. But then the president also talked about his overseas trips. Trips that
so I'll come to that. We'll come to that. So we don't go ahead of ourselves.
No, I just wanted to nexus it to the economy and why you know, they failed to give us data and the amount that they have spent since 2018 to date.
I understand. So just the opening paragraph of President's address. Now, another bit. We're paraphrasing what he says. I'll come to you, Reverend. He says, I mean, his opening lines were, like I said, of thanksgiving to God. It says to shape our future and destiny. But a question there I'd love to ask, I mean, is yes, we believe, yes, we trust in God, but what have our leaders been doing to ensure that in as much as we pray and commit our futures and our destiny to God, that they work to ensure that these futures are and destinies are aligned with what they're praying, we are praying for to God. Reverend, that was what President Bio said in his opening paragraph.
Definitely, that is something to think about. Committing your concerns to God and not just leaving those concerns to God. Taking responsibility for the things that you're supposed to do. We must not forget that serving God is not like waving a magic wand. You go to God, of course, because you know ultimately your wins and whatever it is, they emanate from Him. But He is also expecting us as human beings to take responsibility for the things that we want. You know, somebody would always make this analogy. Yes, we pray to God, but He says the human factor is responsible to move this bottle, for instance, from this point of the table to this other point. And so what that implies is that we do not say reduce the potency of what God can do, but at the same time, He has given us a responsibility to do something. So even when, for instance,
if you take the word of God, he gave us the dominion mandate. Go, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. There are certain things that we must do to complement that, so that what God says will happen comes to pass. And it's not like we depend on ourselves for the overall success, but there is a part that we play.
So I saw comical posts, I would call them that. People were making reference to prayer walks, and that government on Friday announced that a little over $17 million was paid to the energy suppliers, and people were saying, it's prayer that has made that work.
Well, the dynamics, we cannot do the calculation probably from a certain viewpoint. But it could be that because we went to God, finally, eventually, somebody who was sitting on something decided, I cannot continue to sit on this. Because you asked the question, where was that money before that particular time? It was not just manufactured overnight. It was seated somewhere. And, you know, I read a post, somebody was saying from a source close to the minister who resigned that he thought he was being undermined. But that is somebody's position on the matter. What we are saying is that as a people and as a nation, we need to take responsibility for the things that are happening.
So no matter the amount of prayer offered, there should be some form of responsibility taken along
definitely,
the line.
when you pray, you back up your prayers with the requisite action. You go to God. God, in fact, you see, in talking to God, it's a two-way communication. You put your petition before God, but at the same time, God makes a demand on you. There are certain things that He requires you to do to complement whatever He's going to do. If God decides I'm going to provide X, Y, Z, and the people are not prepared to receive what He's providing, there are definitely going to be problems.
All right, I'll come back to you, Reverend. Let me go back to Imran. Imran, now, a few of the things that President mentioned, he says he's deeply humble and grateful to fellow citizens, like I'm saying, I'll paraphrase, for being law-abiding. Now, that's a president who truly realizes the role that citizens play and appreciates the fact that they have been law-abiding. He mentions the forefathers as well, the role that they played. He says we must not take this freedom for granted. He says their sweat and blood was said to ensure that we enjoy the freedom that we do enjoy. Imran.
Yes, quite clearly. Look, I have had the privilege, honor and opportunity since August of 2018 in being a voice for His Excellency the President, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio. And this is my characterization of him. I find him to be the quintessential human being, totally reliant on the grace of God, and has deep faith in God, in everything, right? He does. And therefore, it comes as no surprise to me that the President will continue to seek the face of God and ask the nation to do the same. We have, for every independence celebration or recognition or acknowledgement, we have always prayed anyway, whether being told or not. It has always been part of the programs on that day, every year on the 27th. And so His Excellency the President was just trying to connect us to a supreme being.
Imran, let me ask, what has happened to the awards of presidential awards that will be given on Independence Day?
Those things would continue to happen. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that because we didn't have them, that means it has come to an end. No, that's not the case, right? But then, more fundamentally...
But not having them at all, is it not breaking the pattern or breaking what existed? Leading on to the independence, celebration.
So again, you're talking about what has been done in the past. It doesn't necessarily mean that at every given period you have to come back to that same pattern. You can tweak and change. That's the beauty of life, right? It doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. Or we cannot have those subsequently. Or we cannot have those awards at any other point in the future. I mean, my point, and the point I'd like to speak to is this. I think, look, I get up every day thankful and grateful to God, right? Whatever the circumstances, that's just normal. And on Independence Day, I did say, and I'm sure the vast majority of Sierra Leoneans, even if you didn't realize that that was Independence Day, they would have done same for self and family anyway. Yeah? And so, taking it one step further and praying for the nation, Reverend is a man of God. The scripture tells you that you pray for those in authority. That is what the church does. They don't need to be told. It is a routine. And it's the same for us as Muslims also. Right? And the sort of nuance I sense feels a bit sarcastic to me, that somehow we should not be praying, and we have never done it, by some. I mean, some of the comments you see on social media, forgetting that every year, at every independence, we have prayed as a nation, as a society, in our respective ways. We continue to pray for ourselves and our families.
No, but Iman, one would want to ask, what informs that grand decision to have the nation, I mean, to call on the nation to, to observe a weekend of prayers for our independence celebration? What informed that grand decision?
I mean, at the risk of repeating myself, I would say again that I find His Excellency the President to be the quintessential human being with deep faith and total reliance on the grace of God, right? That is the President I've come to know since August of 2018, right? Hand on heart. And so I understand exactly where he's coming from. I see nothing wrong about it. Now, on issues being raised and touched by my colleagues here, a few things. Again, I was humbled during the course of the campaign. One of the things we talked about was energy, despite the challenges we face now. We acknowledged at the time that energy, and that is still the case, that it has moved from around 15% in April of 2018 to about 35, 36%. We have...
Before you proceed, Iman, it's okay.
If you want to do an additional question on this.
You'd have time for that.
Right.
Again, I asked about the presidential awards that would normally happen on Independence Day.
I thought I answered it.
Forgive me, I'll ask you another question again in that direction. That would normally happen on Independence Day. What happened to the presidential pardon or clemency that will be given as well on Independence Day?
I know presidential pardons are done over Christmas also, and that was done.
No, but
yeah, exactly.
On Independence,
so
it does happen on Independence.
We had presidential pardons not so long ago, right? On a number of hundreds of people who were pardoned, right? So that continues to happen, right? Again,
what was that?
I don't remember the time, but I know it's not so long ago, right? When LAJ and others were pardoned. The point I'm making is this: we have to understand that.
But Iman, I know you have a lot of points to make. Why has our independence celebration gone all quiet? There is no euphoria building up to whatever the activities would be. I for one, I'm very patriotic. You would see me always having something that's green, white, and blue. When I walked in, I think that was the first thing Abdul noticed about me having something on me that's green, white, and blue. Every week, I would ensure that I wear something that's green, white, and blue. But leading on to this independence, I would pity. Entrepreneurs who would have done clothing lines to announce that you could buy your independence wear. I pity what would have happened to them, because I'm not sure, people reached out to them to buy or to have themselves clad in green, white, and blue. So I'm asking, why has our independence gone all quiet all of a sudden?
Again, you've just made two generic statements without any facts. Let me come to those, right? Number one, you're patriotic. You don't get your definition of patriotism, right? I don't feel obliged to follow. I have my own interpretation and understanding as to what patriotism really is, right? I am a Sierra Leonean, so you cannot question that. So I think in a sense we all have the luxury and the latitude, if you like, if that's the right expressions to use, to determine what patriotism is. And for me, let me tell you what patriotism also is. Yesterday, the green, white, and blue, close to them, within the cell, I bought for the whole family. They wore it. They went out.
I like this guy. It's very interesting.
No.
So you don't hold the view of my fact as patriotism, but you are portraying what you think is patriotism.
I'm saying,
and you think that should be swallowed hook, line, and sinker because you are saying that I made a generic statement and you think that there are no facts behind that. But you think
and somehow that is patriotism for you.
Interesting. So Imran, I asked you a question. Instead of trying to go,
number one,
Imran,
I hope we have answered
you are
that.
speaking on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone.
Absolutely.
I asked you a question, not as an individual.
No.
I asked you a question on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone. If you had to speak, you want to speak to me as an individual, that's fine. I'll speak to you as a representative speaking on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone. I'd ask you, why has our independence celebration gone quiet?
I hope we can get a conversation and get to understand each other.
I'm asking you, why has our independence celebration gone quiet?
I also understand the fact that you have the right to ask questions.
I'm asking you, why has our independence celebration gone quiet?
My responsibility is to be able to speak to the public who watch this program, right? So, and that's the point. I think we also have to understand as we have this conversation moving forward. It was quiet, right? I saw a lot of activities also yesterday.
I'm asking, why has it gone quiet?
You keep asking me the same question in different ways.
Because you're not responding to the question.
No, well, let the public come to those conclusions.
You're not responding to the question. Why has it gone quiet?
And I'm going to make that point again.
Go ahead.
I find His Excellency the President to be the quintessential human being, totally reliant on the grace of God, and has deep faith in God. Okay? So I see nothing wrong. Have we been praying every year at Independence? Absolutely, yes. I mean, why overstretch what you think is the reason or reasoning behind just having prayers at Independence? I mean, that should be the first thing that we should do. At every Independence, and that is something we have done at every single Independence. So I see nothing unusual. We've always had the freedom, right, as citizens of this great republic to do our things on Independence Day. Some will choose to go to the beach. Some would go to family members. Yesterday, I chose to go to another family member, cladded in green, white, and blue attire, which I bought for the whole family. And I'm talking about a total number of about 10. For every single individual in my household, in the compound, I got it for them, right? And we chose to celebrate independence in that way. So I saw a lot of activities yesterday. I know for a fact people went out, right? Independence in their own way to celebrate with their families and loved ones, right? And have those moments of reflection and all the rest of it. So I hope that answers the question, and we're not going to go back to this, oh, why was it this, why was it that, right? At the end of the day, independence has come and gone. We all acknowledge. I mean, it's a day we would always live to remember when it comes again next year, inshallah. Summa inshallah, in health and in life, I think we will celebrate independence. I have never been a big fan of what you would call the fanfare surrounding independence anyway. I always prefer to spend it at home with families and loved ones, or go to other families and loved ones and spend independence. We all choose to do it differently. Even with all the fanfare and celebration that we have.
I wish I had asked you a question as an individual. I'm asking you on behalf of the government. Anyway, Imran, let me move on. I'll come back to you. No, Imran, I'll come back to you.
Right?
I wish I had asked you. I wish I had asked you a question as Imran Sila and not as the representative on behalf of government. Abdul, let me bring you. Imran, I'll come back to you. Imran, let me leave you for now. Abdul, now, President Bio also said in his statement, an address to the nation, he owned up and spoke about the realities. He says the nation is faced with economic challenges. Amongst them, he mentioned high food prices, elevated fuel costs, persistent energy shortages impacting the lives of every Sierra Leonean. And that's honesty. Owning up to the fact that these are the issues that are affecting his country.
Yes. I said that, I think, in my second opening.
Yes, you did.
That was paragraph 4 and paragraph 5
of
President Bio's speech. this speechwriter, they have not been doing much justice to neither the president or the people of this country. We appreciate the fact as a country that our president knows our situation. That's what he needs to know, you know. But, I mean, he promised that they put in systems in place. Going back to January 30, when he actually launched, you know, the second midterm development plan, when he announced the 5 game changer plan to the people of this country, that he wants to introduce feed saloon and also building human capital and bringing in technology and innovation. And we have Idris Elba on the side, bringing in smart city. All this will not happen if the citizens are living in constant poverty and no sense of economic growth in their life. We talked about the recent, you know, energy challenge, which he also make mention of in his speech yesterday to the nation, that we are challenged with electricity problem, which within that 5 days created a lot of human loss and also loss of profit or other investment. Put those who are self-employed, put them out of employment. They become unemployed. For example, those who rely on mobile money, transferring mobile money, and if you don't charge your phone, you're going to lose customer to get a commission to send orange money or Q money. We saw that, you know, in our communities, that guys who used to send money or they cash out from them, when you go to them, that may phone no charge. So they were out of job, you know, for 1 or 2 days, which is not good. And young people who are photographers, who actually cover events, you know, you are an MC, people cover programs that you do MC. And those people who cover those programs, if they are asked to produce the photograph, you know, all the things, because there's no electricity, definitely, you know, they're going to lose job. So the president is aware. But then in the speechwriter failed to actually remind us what are some of the gains that we have made as a country. And when we're talking about the economy, are you not following? Are you following?
I thought you talked about.
You just want to interrupt deliberately.
You talk about. You just mentioned.
You just
electricity.
You just want to.
So I wanted
but
to be,
I'm still responding to the question from the moderator. Do you just want to interrupt deliberately?
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
All right. So now some of these gains, they fail to actually tell us what are the short-term, you know, solution towards it. How do we bounce back? But how can we bounce back when we're talking about economic challenge? And then Parliament have already passed another agreement for the Chinese, who failed to disclose to the people of this country how many cars plied their road.
And why did you respond to that? I mean, the Reverend spoke about the toll gate, the increase of that toll gate, and now President Bio in his statement said that, I mean, he acknowledged the fact that there are challenges, and one of them is high food prices. Yeah. Now imagine the toll fees are levied on those trucks commuting with produce from the regions to the western area. What would happen to the direct increase in, obviously, the goods that they're bringing to Freetown?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the reason why we grow cassava leaf, potato leaves here, and yam and plantain. But you look at them, they're quite expensive.
Very expensive.
Few months ago, you can get it for 20,000, now 30,000, now it's about 40,000, maybe for just 3. And then you start looking at, I mean, we're talking about feeds really. And the amount of money actually mentioned, 138 million, I think so, from the speech. It's around that, not even 200 million. And you start wondering, since President Kaba time, President Kroma, and now President Bio, before the feed saloon pronouncement, we have invested more than 500 million in agriculture, but yet still we are struggling, you know, to get the homegrown food to be more cheaper and affordable, you know, to citizens. And you see families are struggling. And we have the, you know, the high inflation also on electricity. So, I mean, having access to electricity is one. How affordable it is another challenge. And telecoms, you know, they cannot continue operating their poles on, you know, generators. And then you expect telecoms actually to reduce the internet price or the core tariff price. We have to be fair enough with businesses as well. So Sierra Leone is open up to business, but do we have the infrastructure plan? Other countries that want their GDP to grow, you engage on road infrastructure, electricity, and also, you know, energy, you know, infrastructure.
So you know, he mentioned persistent energy shortages as well. And then you tend to look at the period covering the notice that was released. Says it covers from 2018 on to 2020. You're wondering, how was the debt repayment managed? Or how was the repayment of these fees to the contractor managed? That you had, that it spanned for 6 years, you were unable to pay it until you get to a point where they now have the audacity to switch off because you were unable to pay them as the client.
Yeah, John, if you look, I mean, this is not the first time under President Bio, the CAPA, you know, people shut down their service on Sierra Leone. It happens less than 12 months ago. That happens last year, September. They did the same thing, but it lasted only maybe for 3 days, but because this stretched to a week. So basically, that's the reason. So like the Ministry of Finance and EDSA, and also the Ministry of Energy, they need to be transparent with how they're dealing with this issue. So basically, citizens are in dark. But guess what? We're paying for these services, and EDSA failing to provide, you know, part of their own contract, the services that we are paying for. The sad thing is that when you take these people to court, you don't get justice. So most people believe to go to Reverend to say, we left the case, give God, let Reverend pray for we, or let the Imam pray for we. I mean, that's the reason, because look at the properties that, you know, I looked at in the way poor people then fridge. And you also think about the people that were lost their life during the shutdown of the electricity. It's terrible. I'm coming back, you know, to independent. I think the government felt the impact that we as a citizens, we are not happy about our condition at the moment. We just come up from 6 days strong blackout. And then, you know, one can put now we face independence celebration, even though the government, as a government, you don't plan for celebration within a month.
No.
Independence celebrations for other countries is a year plan something.
Exactly, year on
the
year. The
reason why countries all over the world celebrate their independence is a reminder when you gain your freedom and how important that freedom is to develop your own law, to manage your own people, to grow your own economy. So it's a moment of reflection. That's the reason why countries around the world, even the United States, celebrate their independence. But UK cannot, because they gain independence from none. But the United States celebrate independence. You know, so, I mean, other great countries celebrate. You plan these things. I asked this question on my Facebook. Have you noticed in your community, your local council and the Ministry of Tourism, what plans have they put in place to beautify your community, you know, as a sense of resemblance for your country independence? But, I mean, you cannot see that visible. Year in, year out, we'll be rubbing whitewash, the black and the white. Then we wait back to independent camp. Then we'll go rub and some few side them, you know, and we find small green, white, and blue, close them. We hang on purple, they say it black. You know, so, I mean, this is just the way we think that, say, we send message, we celebrate Sierra Leone 62, 63, and we are still poor as a country. We still have economic challenges. We still struggle with social injustice in this country. We still have, you know, a lot of mountains to claim for us actually to look inwardly and say, indeed, we are a free nation.
All right, Abdul, I'll come back to you later on. But Reverend, I mean, I'm sure you want to touch on these beats. President says there's high price of food. He you know, recognizes the fact there's elevated fuel costs. There's persistent energy shortage impacting the lives of every Sierra Leonean. I mean, that's him saying clearly to us as a nation that these are the issues. I know, I can see them, I can tell that these are the things that are happening. And these beats were mentioned, I mean, when he made that address yesterday to the nation. Reverend.
Of course. That for me is something to pay attention to, in the sense that the president spoke with all honesty. And because the tone of his speech can be characterized as such, let us speak honestly to the problems in our country. The president made it clear that he's aware of what is going on. And let us don't fool ourselves. All is not well. And for me, I know there was this challenge between you and Imran about responding to a certain question. Yes, I have a secular engagement.
There was not a challenge. I mean, he wanted me probably to respond in a way I did not. And so he would keep asking the question again in some other ways. Yeah, I should feel comfortable.
The back and forth was what I call a challenge.
I should feel comfortable in giving my own answers and not be pressed for the answers.
Definitely. You have the right to respond the way you want to respond.
You're a man of God. I trust you on that.
Yes. More of you are from the government.
Toma, please. I was speaking on the fact that the president was honest enough to tell us the reality on the ground. And as Sierra Leoneans, let us take a leaf from what the president has told us. Let us be honest with each other to face squarely the problems that we're experiencing. These problems, they are not manufactured by outsiders. These are problems generated by ourselves, and these are problems we must strive to solve by ourselves. You know, several questions are going to be asked about the nature of the 63rd independence. For me, in the shoes of President Bio, I would rather pay for electricity than spend all of the money to celebrate independence. At least you ask yourself the question.
No, but that signals poor planning. So if you were planning
call it poor planning, Mr. Conte. From even the acknowledgement of the president, it should tell you that all is not well.
No, again.
And therefore, you see,
Reverend,
the sooner we get to understand what we are experiencing, the better for us.
Yes, we understand.
You cannot solve a problem if you don't acknowledge it.
We understand, Reverend. But again, if you have been planning on having the independence celebration, and then you get to a point where there is you look at what's important, what's urgent, and what's necessary, then you say, okay, this is what is important for us as a nation. Right now, we need to address the issues of energy. Therefore, we will not be having an independence celebration. But you are not planning on having any. So how would you now prioritize?
We saw on the eve of independence. So how would you
now prioritize spending on energy and independence celebration when you are not planning on any?
Let's even for the sake of an argument agree that we're not planning on any, but at least we saw a notice to the public that government dished out this amount of money to settle our electricity bills. So something was done, and not speaking to defend anybody, but to say that if that was the only money available, if in the shoes of the president, I would have chosen that way.
I have a question, but I'm not a moderator.
No, but I mean, Abdul, again, you are at liberty to interject.
Okay.
You are at liberty to ask. Don't. I mean, this is a This is AYV on Sunday.
Yeah.
You are at liberty to interject. You can ask, you can interject, you
No,
want to make a comment, you can
I
go ahead
just
and
want
make it.
to ask Reverend, he's coming from NCD, a government entity that is responsible for civic education, similar to Imram Institution. Do you guys know if we have a budget as a country for the independence celebration? Do we have a specific budget? So you wanted to put yourself into President Bio's shoes. So now we have...
As a citizen...
Yeah, do we have a budget as a country? Not you as a citizen, as a country.
No,
you should know about that because your institution actually needs to
as a citizen,
education.
as a citizen, I'm saying, if I were in the shoes of President Bio, for me, my position would have been, let's settle the electricity challenge. It's serious. It has been announced again and again. You just mentioned the period. We've not paid our bills for a very long time. That should be paid. For me, it's more important than what you might call celebrating independence.
Do we have budget?
So let me answer it.
Now,
let me answer it.
Okay.
Oh my God, Imran, the question was meant for me.
It's okay. Go ahead. Let him speak. Reverend, let him.
First of all, for me, I think it's a non-question. And I'll tell you the reason why it's a non-question.
That's very disrespectful.
With the greatest of respect, it's a non-question, and I'll tell you the reason why. I hope you'll see my point eventually. Look, go back 10, 15 years ago.
You can't do
right?
that.
There have been several types of celebrations, right, at independence in this country, each with its own figure, calculations of budget. So it tells you that year on year, depending on what is being done that particular year, that is what determines, right, what state resources is being put into it. It is quite clear. So if you ask the question, well, when they did, was it the 50th under Ernest by Chroma, what was spent? When they did the 51st, 52nd, or whatever, what was spent?
Are you trying to say because every year inflation goes up, so every year a government will not bring any budget, so it's no
that
question.
Is not my point.
No, but we have inflation every year, and then we have independence celebration every year. Every country plans this, and every country designs budget.
It's okay.
Year on year, depending on what is being done, based on your experience in this country.
Can I make you get budget every year? Imran, what they talk here?
What is being done?
Imran, what they talk?
If nothing is being done, there is no budget. Full stop.
If nothing is done, so you don't need budget. So
all right, okay, let's.
Every year, every country.
Anyway, so
as budget.
Abdullah, I asked
really needs to plan.
I asked Imran a question. Why have we gone quiet on independence? He didn't respond to the question as I wanted to. He says, he held. But then Reverend, let's. It's okay. Let's proceed. Reverend was still. I want to protect Reverend now. I want to protect Reverend now. Let Reverend continue with his points, and then we move on to...
Sorry, Reverend.
It's almost 8:30 now. Let's move on.
It's okay. It's okay. These things do happen. It's a public conversation. And at times, we want certain things clarified. So it's clear now. I go back to what I term the characteristic of the president's message. It's one that is characterized by honesty.
Yeah.
And for me, that is the honesty with which we should address the problems of our country. The president himself has acknowledged that we are confronted with significant economic challenges. It cannot be better said. And we know the reality. We must not in the least fool each other or fool ourselves to say that all is well. And if I am to attempt to answer, there's this question, and I'm itching to answer, to respond to that particular thing. Why this approach to independence? It comes to a time when we realize that by all of what we have deployed, we cannot adequately respond to the issues around. We need to turn to a higher power. And this time, that is why it's so significant to turn to God.
Reverend, sir.
Yes.
Reverend, sir.
Yes,
I didn't want to mention my personal background. I was literally born in church. I grew up in church. I grew up praying for Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Every all-night services, independence. Since I remember that I could speak, I've been praying for Sierra Leone every single year. Every prayer meeting I attend,
Wonderful.
I will pray for Sierra Leone. Every time I get to pray on a personal basis, I'll
Wonderful.
pray for the leaders of Sierra Leone. So I asked the question again, and I asked Imran, what informs this grand decision again for us to get to God in prayer on behalf of our nation? Maybe you might want to answer that. I'm asking you now. What informed this grand decision that we should get back to God and pray? Or meaning we were away from God, now we need to turn back to God and have that prayer done.
My perspective is that we've come to the realization that more than ever before, we need God's intervention in our country.
I have had that 1,000 times.
Yes, you've had it.
You don't need to accept it.
You've had it.
Times.
But I am emphasizing the point.
to accept it.
Because, my dear brother, the fact of the matter is, we need God's intervention in our country, the way things are going. You know, we're talking about independence. Let's do a little bit of reflection. The very moment or the period when we went to England to negotiate for independence, what we presented, if you read you check the history books, they spoke about a united front. But that front was never united. How do I know? They came back with some people refusing to sign whatever the arrangement was. And some people were even calling for elections before independence. In fact, it was that movement that gave birth to the APC party. Now, nothing has changed significantly in terms of us not being united to foster the interest of this country. We've dragged on till this 63rd independence anniversary. And what I have learned over time is that the politics of this country has produced 3 monsters in this country. We need to do a little bit of reflection to tell you all is not well. The first category of people that we've produced on account of the way we've been doing things are those that are vindictive. The second category, those that are, you might call them being cantankerous, the Confucianists. The third category, you have those that are cynical. Nothing good will come out of this country. And when you have those categories of people in the context of a state, and you expect to see a progressive governance architecture, you have a lot of thinking to do. And when you just look, let's look around our country. I am not saying we don't have exceptions.
But Reverend, would you agree that the people that are being produced by the state are churned out by the states? There are people that are
definitely
that are affected by the status quo. Therefore, like you've mentioned, you've categorized them. You have the cynical, you have the vindictive, and the
cantankerous.
And the cantankerous. So,
yes.
Would you agree that these are the outcomes or the produce of or product of the existing status quo?
The response, of course, I have to be very careful. But
careful with what?
The response that I give to that. But the truth of them. Hold on, Fatoma. Hold on, please. Let's set certain things straight.
All right.
You are a panelist like myself. Let's allow the questions to come forward.
Reverend, it's okay.
So allow me to answer the question.
I will allow you, but know that I have right to interject. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Reverend. Go ahead. Hey, Abdul, I'm protecting Reverend for now.
Now, we have what you call social institutions. And these are all operating within the context of the state. Each and every one of them is responsible for where we are today. And which institutions am I referring to? The family, the learning institutions, the religious institutions, the state, and we can add to that the economy. They've produced the people that we have today. And so, in a way, your assertion is correct, that what we have is as a result of what society has given to us. And by society, we are looking at these institutions. Everybody has a role to play, but see where we are today. Now, looking at the situation from a political lens, you have this divide that it seems as if we cannot address it. Today, SLPP is in power. There is this other group that says, whatever is happening on this side, nothing good will come out of it. Yesterday, it was APC in power. It was the same approach, was the same attitude. Now, with the brutal truth presented to us during his address, that is the president's address for the 63rd independence anniversary, let's take that frankness, that honesty to speak to the concerns of this nation. All is not well, my brother. And therefore, we must look for common sense solution that will solve the problems of this country.
So we are going to God in prayer, and we're looking for common sense solution. Imran, common sense solution is what the Reverend ended with. And President mentioned taking decisive actions across the board so that he would boost economic growth and the prosperity of the nation. He also affirmed government's commitment. What are these actions that will be taken to build a more prosperous and stronger Sierra Leone?
So, I mean, again, I think it should not be surprising that His Excellency the President did acknowledge during his speech at independence that there are challenges. This is something he has indicated for a long time, right? I remember way back when Mabang Bridge was being opened, right? I was there, and His Excellency the President was addressing the crowd before he did the needful, right, in opening the bridge. He talked about the economic challenges then. That was immediately after COVID, I remember quite clearly. So he has been very consistent. He has been very honest. Reverend talks about his honesty. I mean, it's not new. We know this president to be honest. We know this president to be truthful. We know this president to be candid, right, on the challenges we face as a country and the fact that he's committed to turning things around. And so this should not come as a surprise, not by any means. Now, two beautiful things I'm going to say. I like to point to the things that gives me hope. And I'm sure, by extension, gives this country hope. Two things I'm going to point to. Last week, I was talking to the HR officer at my ministry. There's this Wages and Compensation Commission thing, right? I was involved in it. At that time, the previous minister, Mohamed Ramanswari, asked me to represent him. There was a Ghanaian consultant that came into this country, spent, I think, about 2 years, put together a report, blah, 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 and all the rest of it, pushed forward to cabinet, to parliament, and all the rest, right? Long story short, little did I realize that parts of this harmonization of wages has been implemented. This HR guy at my office was earning, I think, about $1,500,000. His total take home now, for his, I think, his grade 7, his total take home now, right, before tax, is about 7 million or 7,000.
His or her family members already know how much now it goes on.
Wait. I'm talking about grade 7.
Is there any problem with disclosing?
I'm talking about grade 7.
The individual has not disclosed.
That is not just for the HR officer at a particular ministry. We're talking about right across the civil service. Every single HR officer now is on that salary scale. I mean, these are civil servants, right?
Every grade 7.
Yo, absolutely.
What do you need to have to go to grade 7?
You would have to revert back to HRM, or they'll give you those details. That's not what I'm talking about.
You're giving us a scanty information.
I'm talking about scanty for you as it relates to, for me, the point
Iman,
I
want you, you would have time.
Which relates to take home.
It's okay. Iman, you have time to.
Somebody who was on 1.5 or 1,500 is now taking home at least over 5 million.
Iman, you'd have time to respond. I know.
I'll finish it in 10 seconds. Second,
go ahead.
That has also to do with what you'd call the fees that foreign workers pay. Last time I checked, before this new plan was implemented, they were paying, I think it was about $100, $150 or whatever for foreign workers to come into Sierra Leone. Now, it's nothing below, I think, what, $500, $600 or something. So it shows, right? Revenue is being generated also in the process. My point is, things are happening. It may be slow. It's painful. The economy is challenged. This is something the president has alluded to and acknowledged. He has talked about the social safety nets, cash transfers, labor opportunities for youth, and all the rest of it. So His Excellency the President is at the right place. That is why we say, when you asked me what was my take for the week, I said, inflation has dropped from 55%. It was 57 at some point, dropped down to 55. We are now talking about 42. Yes.
Imran, yeah, I'm tempted to ask what is the Imran. I'm tempted to ask what is the corresponding effect. You can announce as much as you want. There's been a drop in inflation rate, but what is the corresponding? What is the corresponding effect? It has to be felt.
John, you are not getting me at all in all of what I have said. So you're asking questions as if I have not answered them.
No, Imran, no.
I have said to you.
Imran, I mean, you have to stop the patronage. Listen, my friend, I asked you a simple question. The question I asked, you say the inflation rate has dropped from 53% to 42%.
That's fact.
I'm asking you now, what is the corresponding, I've seen the figures, but so I'm asking you what
that's the point, John.
What are the corresponding effects?
Mohamed Yaman would say, listen with profits. You have not listened with profit.
Are the
Until you're asking me a question, I have already answered.
No, you haven't responded to that.
I'm
asking you
a question.
Imran, I'm asking you a question. Okay, what are the corresponding effects?
I'm not asking this now for the public. I'm asking it now just
for the content. No, you are asking for the public, not me. I'm asking on behalf of I'm asking on behalf of the public. What are the corresponding effects?
I'm asking it again for you.
What are the corresponding effects? Imran, my friend, you are not here to you are here to speak on behalf of the government.
Absolutely.
If you were here in Imran Sila capacity, it will be a different exchange altogether. So I'm asking you a question. I do ask you questions on behalf of the people watching and listening. So I'm asking, what are the corresponding effects?
Okay.
The inflation rate has dropped. The figures are there. What are the corresponding effects? The people get to see. The people get to feel it. That's what I'm asking you.
Just in case you did not hear me correctly.
That's what I'm asking you.
Let me answer the question again.
Go ahead and answer the question.
I hope it's going to be for the last time.
Go ahead and answer the question. So if it's not answered correctly, I would ask you again.
My point is this. I said inflation has dropped from 55 to 42. I said, even though prices may still be stubborn when it comes to essential commodities, we understand and acknowledge that. I'm repeating myself again, you know, say, we understand and acknowledge that prices may still be stubborn on essential commodities. But the fact remains that inflation has dropped from 55 to 42. And my final point was this. Now ask me again. I'm being very respectful now. My final point is this. If that inflation trend keeps going down from 42 to 35 to 30 and something else, those figures would ultimately change. That's the point I made. What did you not get for you to ask the question again?
Okay.
I don't know.
Do you have statistics of foreign workers in Sierra Leone?
ابدل wait hold on.
I'm just interjecting.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
What's the word?
So Imran, so when a question is asked, it's so that you are able to respond to the question. I asked you a question, you have responded to the question. Whether or not the answers are right, whether or not you are wrong, whether or not people understand. But that's what I'm saying.
So many questions.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not asking you. I'm not measuring the response you give, whether they are correct or they are wrong. I'm not. So, anyways, let's take some comments from our Facebook and viewers and listeners across the globe. We'll come back to you, Imran.
Okay. Thank you so much. The comment section here is very, very busy. We have close to 140 messages so far, but we can only take few of those messages, and we're sorry. The first message you take is from Ronald Bradford, Igniters George Stone. He says, another 63rd independence with a bitter taste in the mouth of millions of Sierra Leoneans, where poverty prevails without any prospect for a brighter future for Sierra Leoneans. It's another year of reflection rather than celebrations from successive governments' failure. The second one, Ibrahim Senesi Nabiu, is saying, making political remarks or launching attacks will not address the issues facing Sierra Leone. While the situation is far from perfect, it is important to acknowledge and commend the positive efforts of individuals. Let's refrain from labeling Sierra Leone as the worst country in Africa. Judge Stone again, I think he's asking a question to Imran. Imran, millions of Sierra Leoneans go to bed hungry. Do you think the reduction in inflation makes any difference in their daily lives? Because I doubt even if those going through the economic hardship are aware. Nabil, the primary challenge for our nation, Mama Salone, stems from us, the citizens, rather than the politicians. This assertion is grounded in our tendency to align with political party principles driven by tribal, regional, or personal agendas, instead of constructively advising our leaders on what needs to be done. We often resort to baseless criticism without substantial evidence. And IB Rahim Cham Sila. We do not have a prayer problem in Sierra Leone. Our problems are the lack of sound minds and poor leadership. Mohammed El Jallo. Good evening, AYV. Inasmuch as we Sierra Leoneans are highly religious in our daily doings, but a country like Sierra Leone cannot be built by prayers alone. The Romans are more religious than us as Sierra Leoneans, but Rome was not built by prayers, but by hard-working Romans who conquered the world and built the Roman Empire. Our problems in Sierra Leone is clearly and squarely lack of political leadership and misplaced priorities as a nation. Ronald, Sierra Leone is a country blessed with everything many other countries envy, yet our leaders have turned our resources into a cost and a blessing now. Whose fault is that? Let's leave God out of our selfish and greedy habits that has kept us backwards, where only a tiny few benefit from the ill-gotten gains, leaving the rest in perpetual poverty with no light and at the end of the tunnel. Dauda Tarawali, as long as we have ethnic favoritism in Sierra Leone, we will never move forward. Bradford, in any developed country, an energy company breaching its contract will face hefty financial penalties, but EDSA gets away with crime and not even the ACC or Ombudsman holds EDSA to account. Evangelist Solomon Ken Kagbo is saying, at the moment we are in darkness in Bo. This energy issue is very serious. Sierra Leone should have grown beyond this. Energy distribution brings profit to the economy. I wonder why our governments are playing around with this. And Desmond Doherty is saying, governments must focus on priorities. In the past, we have spent millions of dollars to celebrate independence. If the government is honest of the mess created, no celebration is planned, why should we be banging our heads and debating so much on celebrating independence and budgets? Ken Kabo again. Reverend, God has given us every good thing. We need good and sincere people to run the affairs of the country. And Hassan Conte, which will be the last message I'll take. God not go help any country where the people not ready for help themselves. We just around inside the same cycle. So that's the last message, and back to you, John Conte, in the studio.
All right, few comments. I mean, swinging both ends. Some are in support of you know, getting the prayers done. Others saying government must focus on the priority. I think that stood out for me, Reverend, when you were hinging on that, or latching onto that point to say that, you know, if you were in President Bio's shoe, you would ensure that the priority for you would be resolving or addressing the energy crisis. So Desmond Doherty, I think, mentioned that we've been having independence celebrations in the past. I mean, the priorities should now be focused on. So he says for him, I mean, there is really no need for an independence celebration, Reverend.
Well, why belabor the point? He's made his point, and it's clear that when you are faced with a crisis situation and you've acknowledged it, go solve the problem. And don't begin to look for other areas where it will amount to a colossal waste. So just dump money when you can address more important issues. For me, that's my focus. And somebody said something about having good and sincere people that will ensure that we make progress. Definitely. I cannot agree more with that person. We need good and sincere people to move this nation forward. We cannot continue to be insincere and dabble in evil and expect good results. No. In fact, the fact that we are turning to God should imply one thing clearly, that our honesty should not come under question. Because you cannot turn to God and you are dishonest. No, it's a waste of time. So if we are going to God, acknowledging that God can help us fix the problems in our country, then we need to be sincere. Right. We need to be good people. Okay. Because it's out of such sincerity that we can put in place those policies and programs that will ensure we make progress.
All right, let me go back to you, Iman. Another comment from one of the followers on Facebook said, I mean, prayer is not a problem. Our true problem is lack of sound mind and poor leadership. He says those are really our problems.
Well, I mean, I don't understand where he's coming from. I surely don't share these views expressed by him. But then again, that's his entitlement. Let me come back to a more fundamental point that one of the texters said that was read a short while ago. And that says millions of Sierra Leoneans are going to bed hungry, and you alluded to it about the inflation reduction. What's the impression? What's significance? What's the significance of the reduction in inflation from 55 to 42%? A few things I would like to say, and basically it would be to echo what's expressed by His Excellency the President. Hand on heart, His Excellency the President has said and continues to say that he acknowledges that there are challenges to the economy. He talks about elevated fuel cost. He talks about the economy and all the rest of it. But then the fact that he continues to acknowledge shows also, and that is something that is not seen as often or probably gets lost in the conversation. The fact that you acknowledge that there is a challenge, there is a problem, it shows your willingness to work on it. It shows your willingness to work on it. That is why His Excellency the President continues to acknowledge, oh yes, we have an economic problem. Oh yes, we know that, essential commodities, the price of essential commodities up. Oh yes, we acknowledge, right, the price of fuel. But that it has to be addressed, right? And from time to time, being the person he is, who has got deep roots in God and fervently believes that God should be at the center of everything that happens, he continues to implore this nation. I am doing my utmost. I am doing my best. We continue to fix. I have highlighted 3 instances. I have talked about the wages gone up. Wages has gone up for from grade 7 to I think about 12 or 13. Somebody who was taking 1.5 or 1,500 now in the new Leone is now receiving about 7 million in aggregate, right? That's a quantum leap, 200%. Nobody knows talk about an there. I'm sure simply because...
Are you not a human being? You're talking about it.
Nobody's ready to talk about it.
But you're talking about it,
responsibility to do
you
it.
are paid to do that.
I have the responsibility to do it because I
you are not a person.
And I have a responsibility
and who
to
do you want to talk about?
Imran, that's your
His Excellency the President and this government.
Don't come on this panel and start making people feel like they're responsible for the things that you're supposed to be doing as a government. Do you expect us to start propagating what you do?
So you are not.
Nobody's talking about it. That's not our responsibility.
I feel when I'm also mentioned what's the cost now for foreign workers coming into Sierra Leone, and the fact that we have had at least 200%.
How many foreign workers we have?
We have had at least a 200% increase now in what they used to pay and what obtains now. The point I'm making is this: we cannot afford to have a conversation and be a disservice to the very conversation we're having, right? Or conversations we're having. Talk about challenges. We talk about the economic problems. We talk about what we have done. We should also acknowledge that in the midst of the challenges, we're talking about recruiting about 2,000 nurses. In the midst of these challenges, grade 7 upwards to 12 or 13, those who are earning 1,500 are now earning at least 7 million, right, before tax. And that shows in the midst of these challenges, we clearly understand that we have to move forward and we continue to take those baby steps. Yes, that is not going to take those challenges away, right? It requires a more deep approach to it. And for example, on energy, I am not going to talk about energy. The Chief Minister, Dr. David Moynihan Assenga, will be at our press conference on Tuesday, together with his team. They would have an opportunity, and the whole country would have the opportunity to listen, right, to the Chief Minister of the Republic of Sierra Leone and the team as they bring forward, right, what are the policies, plans, and programs moving forward. We continue to acknowledge that there are challenges, but we also know that in the midst of these challenges, we can talk about social safety net. In the midst of the challenges, we can still say pupils are taking public exam. In the midst of the challenges, we can also now boldly say, oh, civil servants, right, from a certain grade to a certain grade, are in the midst
of the challenges, a doctor had to speak out that there is no power at cottage, and there are dying babies, and that in the midst of these challenges, you have to acknowledge.
Well, I did read what that particular doctor said, and she mentioned one baby. So not say there are dying babies, or that was not what she said. So let us get it correct. Right?
So she mentioned one. There could be more that were not mentioned.
No. So
she mentioned one that could be more that were not mentioned.
If you correct your initial statement, we can have
this
conversation.
Come on.
You mentioned there are dying babies.
No. I didn't say the doctor mentioned that there are dying babies.
You mentioned
I said there were dying.
And you talked about dying babies.
The doctor spoke, and there were dying babies. Iman, get to the point. Get to the fact, Iman.
And so here's the thing. Going forward, more broadly, His Excellency the President, in his address at Independence, has also said that on energy, the plan is to get to 75%, right, of alternative sources of energy in this country, right? He has talked about the investment in energy and agriculture, right? He has talked about social safety net. He has talked about the approach for drug and substance abuse and the fact that there is now, he has now declared a national emergency, and that there's a national task force that has been put together with Professor Safudi, who's now leading that exercise, right? So a lot of things are happening, right? Amidst the challenges, amidst the difficulties, what gives me hope, again, I continue to say, yes, it may not clearly affect the figures now and the prices of essential commodities, right? And it's the same for every economic situation. Once inflation begins to drop, you don't immediately see it on the price of essential commodities. Talk to any economist and we'll tell you that. We'll give you that for free, right? But if that trend continues over time, and that's the hope and that's the expectation, if that trend, we have now dropped 13 percentage points, if that trend continues over time and we continue to see a downward trend, right, those figures, as stubborn as they may be, will continue to drop.
All right, we'll wait for the figures to continue to drop. Abdul, I mean, Iman mentioned some of the things that should have been highlighted. Now, President Bio, as we round up, said one of the things he mentioned in his statement. I think it's being a rhetoric that has been propagated. People have been talking about his travels since he, and there have been reports that this has been the most spent on overseas travel since he had his first inning as president and now as in his second term. He says that the overseas travels are not for leisure. They are to secure investment and partnership, and the travels are beginning to produce substantial results. The traveling and international engagement, he says, will take time to fully manifest. Quoting our founding fathers who said when they went for the independence, it would take time for the country to actually experience and enjoy what independence is truly like. As we round up, Abdul.
Yes, when you look at bullet 15 and also the one on agriculture, this one, bullet 15 is talking about the agriculture, talking about we move from 2.2% to 7%. I mean, this is a clear. Yeah, you have to catch up with that one.
No, I'm just adding it to what you're saying.
All right. Thanks for your assistance.
Interesting guys this evening.
So basically.